going.
Yeah.
Okay, we have got a great guest joining us today. We are live coast to coast, born in a motor on iHeartRadio today. We are also 990 WBOB out there in Rhode Island, 50 plus AM FM stations across the country and around the world. And we have got a great guest to kick us off here, my friend. I think I've spoken to you a few different times on this show.
Wow.
DieTrich, how are you, my man?
How you doing?
Pretty good,
DieTrich Thrall
actually.
here. What's that?
Pretty good, actually. Thank you for
Yeah, right
asking.
on. Yeah. We had a
So,
big Lords of Acid pre-tour party in this area. I ran out
yes,
for a little bit last night, so just recuperating from that. Ready for the tour.
that is awesome.
Getting everything all packed up.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about this tour. This is wow, quite the undertaking. As
Praise the Lord's 2025 tour. We got we're all meeting in about on the 20 in like what 3, 4, 5 days here in LA.
Yep.
Start rehearsals for the big tour before we take up the West Coast. We got Prague Khan flying in from Belgium. We got Carla Harvey coming in. She's our brand new Acid Queen. We're very excited about the tour.
So let's start there. Talk to us a little bit about the new edition.
Yeah, so Carla is joining us on this tour. It's her very first tour. We're all very excited. I know that she's excited. I know I spoke with her a few days ago. We're trading some notes on the set list and stuff like that. So I haven't personally worked with her, but I'm looking forward to it. She seems very, very excited and knowledgeable and ready to dive in. She's been a Lords of Acid fan for quite some time, according to what I've been hearing. So
that's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's always good when you've got people who are familiar with the material. Because I've talked to a lot of bands over the years where they have they've added to the group or someone leaves or whatever it is, and they get people in there and they're either weren't fans of the music or don't really know about the band. And I mean, what are you doing here? Exactly. So at least with her, she's a fan of the music. She knows the music, and
I think she personally selected one of the secret songs, and I think one of the other band members mentioned it on their live chat. But I'm going to keep it a secret, so it'll be a surprise for everybody at the shows.
Okay. So let's talk a little bit about this tour. This is pretty awesome. Talk to me a little bit about the whole touring concept, because I know that nowadays, back years and years ago when I started interviewing all the various musicians from all sorts of different styles of music, touring has massively changed over the years. From the whole process to what you guys and girls do. Bring us up to speed on some of the different things and some of the different changes that you've seen.
Well, so as far as I'm aware, we've got a much bigger crew on this tour. We're bringing out someone to expand the show in terms of light and videos. So, and also, so we're looking forward to that, and we're going to incorporate that into the show. Also, I know that on this show, on this tour, we're shooting up the West Coast and going around the northern U.S. before coming through the South in the middle of the soup as it's starting to warm up during summer. So that'll be fun. We're doing a big circle. We're hitting a lot of the familiar spots, Chicago, Denver, Seattle, New York, Atlanta, New Orleans. We're going back to New Orleans, adding a few shows that we missed on the last tour. So like Wichita, we're getting into Lincoln, Nebraska. Who goes to Lincoln, Nebraska? We go to Lincoln, Nebraska. We're going to go. I'm calling it Cornhusker Fetish Fest 2025. So we're going to get up there and do the thing, throw down up there.
Do the thing. That's right. So I know that a lot of bands, and I used to notice this in the early 2000s, they would just skip Nebraska, Kansas, or if they did Kansas, they'd do Wichita, or they would come to Salina, Kansas, and go to the Blue Goat. They would talk to us about how you guys are now kind of,
I think that's a great point, because largely I mentioned this on my live chat the other night too. I said we were going to Boise, and for some reason when I was younger, we did not. Idaho was not a big. We didn't go to Idaho. But now I've
Hmm.
noticed it's been popping up on the last several tours, and it seems like it's a hot spot in Wichita. Some of these, everybody knows, Chicago is going to be a party, and everybody knows Denver is going
Oh
to be a
yeah.
party, and it's going to be a party in Seattle. Some of our biggest shows, we get down to Phoenix, it's a big show. But some of these new places that we're hitting on this one, like Bellingham, was over kind of close to Vancouver. We got Harrisburg, which is central Pennsylvania. We've got a couple newer spots, and I think that those shows can, when you get up into these areas, that they don't get as many shows, or I'm not sure what's changed there, but they usually some of the wildest stories come from those areas.
I there was one time I was at a Walmart in Salina, Kansas, and Wayne Static was in the was in the Walmart, and I was like, "What the hell are you doing in Salina, Kansas?" And he's like, "We're on our way to Denver," and that was always the story. It was always, "We're on our way to Denver," or "We're coming from Denver,"
Yeah,
and they would just go down that highway,
yeah.
and they were headed to Oklahoma a lot of times.
Walmart's a great place to swing by when you're on tour and you're on a tour bus and you want to go grab a couple things. They usually have so many things available. You don't have to make 10 stops. You just make the
That's
one
right.
stop. It is helpful on a tour when we're coming from out of town and we just want to hop off the highway for a few minutes.
Yeah,
It's pretty helpful. This is typical, tour stop
yeah,
and stuff like that.
yeah. So besides that, what are some of your favorite like breakfast spots? When you are you one of these people that, oh, we just go to IHOP or Denny's, whatever the hell's open?
I usually skip breakfast and stick with everybody has their own tour regimen to stay in their proper conditioning for the tour, stuff like that. I
Yeah.
usually skip a lot of heavier foods when I'm on tour. I'll stick more with just like strictly protein and stuff like that to try to make sure that there's balance in the force for when we're on the tour bus and there's limited access to certain facilities and stuff like that. It's pretty basic stuff. Just try to be practical about everything, be smart about everything, plan ahead, 3 steps ahead.
So with this tour, uh, what goes in on your end as a musician to plan for a tour? Because I know that dealing with booking agents and venues and all these things over the years, they have their own thing they're doing, getting the routing and getting you guys a good price to go play the venue and all these things. They take a lot of that crap out of your hands. What is the stuff that you guys have to deal with?
I don't really get involved in a lot of what you just mentioned, but usually, as far as like getting prepping for the songs and stuff like that, I'll go over songs and just get everything all dialed in there. We have
That's awesome.
I know that I've worked with Galen now for this will be my 4th tour with Galen, so I pretty much know I have a good sense of where he's going to gravitate on certain songs, even on a song or two where he won't that we haven't played together yet. Like I mentioned, there's one or two that we haven't played together on the tour yet. So I have a pretty good idea of what he does. He's very tasty, and then I usually work off of a drummer's kick drum. So once I get his vibe there, I'll work the bass line around that, and then the central progressions. That's kind of where I'm coming from. Is that what you're talking about?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So we have got a great guest with us today. DieTrich from Lords of Acid joins us here on our program, and you have all sorts of different background and musical history. Just all the different things that over the years, industrial metal, punk, all these various things. How do you think your background and stuff has meshed with the whole Lords of Acid thing over the years?
Yeah, well, I was a huge Prince fan back when I used to still study music and kind of getting that background ingrained and the influences and stuff like that. So I kind of feel that there's a lot of crossover there with Prince and some of his earlier stuff, also with the Lords of Acid stuff.
Yeah.
I think there's a big sexy kind of love and lust and kind of a little bit of crossover there in terms of the topics and some of the stuff that Prince used to get into. So I was kind of, I would jam over that stuff in between all the rock and metal stuff I was working on. And then, Lords of Acid, band the gigs. I was listening to Lords of Acid back in the day, during the Lust period and stuff like that. So I think that it works. That's kind of where I think it kind of dovetails there when you're talking about influences and stuff like that.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So, Lords of Acid, going to be coming pretty much everywhere from what you've run down. You guys are just hitting the road, going all over the damn place. You guys are gonna be busier than a fruit merchant with this thing.
I believe so. Fruit merchant, yeah. Fruit merchant, Lords of Acid coming through.
So you are known for high intensity performances, just all the various things I've seen over the years, and all the various concerts and everything. What is your approach to bringing all that energy and doing all that on stage?
We kind of, I know Praga's kind of encouraged there's some cues that we lock in on a nightly basis, but there's a lot of room for everybody to improvise on a show to show basis, so that it's not, if you're watching us in Seattle and then you come and check us out in Chicago, or you swing through Atlanta, you're going to get a different show. It's going to be, it's large. There's a lot of improv, every show's unique. I don't think you're getting the same show on a night-to-night basis. So, and that's encouraged. It's highly encouraged, and that's what we aim for, to try to give everybody something a little different, a little unique, something that's original, a performance for that particular night.
That's awesome. You have quite the background with everything you do musically. What was your first reaction when Lords of Acid approached you to tour?
It was great. We were kind of connecting dots through some of the same industry people, some of the same industry connections from some of the different people I had worked with previously. So it made a lot of sense. I sent them some information and stuff like that, and it just worked out really well. And so here I am.
That's awesome.
And I think it worked out very well. Galen and I definitely a great rhythm section team up back there. I know we got Creighton in the band. I know he's a good friend of ours. Creighton's responsible for, we've known each other for years, going way back.
Yeah.
It worked out really nice.
That's awesome. We have got a great guest with us today. DieTrich from Lords of Acid joins us here in our program. You are quite the musician, and you're like a music historian. Because like you were talking about all the, studying music and all these things, because that is the one thing I've always liked about you over the years. Whenever we've had you on the show, or, I've seen other interviews that you do, you have a background in music. You just don't I learn how to play a guitar, or I learn how to do drums. You actually are a musician, which I appreciate, because I've interviewed a lot of musicians over the years, and they are the complete opposite. So,
that's interesting. I'm not sure. What does that mean? The opposite? What is the
opposite?
Well,
they don't, like you were talking earlier. You study music theory, you study this, you study that, and a lot of these guys, they just I learned how to play a guitar.
One of the interesting things about what you're talking about there, music theory and stuff like that, is that you're talking about chaos math here, and a lot of people, there's people out there who are kind of, it's very natural for them, and I took a lot of, I took some theory and stuff like that. And I realized that basically I knew a lot of the stuff already just by pure instinct. And I learned basically what to call it. I know that there's certain elements that make this kind of the music more, it's easier for us because we have an ability to, understand music, something in our heads, our brains. If you play Simon Says and you're kicking everybody's ass on Simon Says, and that means you have good memory recall and tones. You can pick up on tones very quickly. That's incredibly important for people who go into bands and learn a bunch of songs very, very quickly, which is a lot of what gets thrown at us. When I'm not doing touring, I'm doing a lot of moonlighting, which is filling in for other bands and cover bands and stuff like that. We just jump in. It doesn't take a lot of time, because if it did, it wouldn't be worth it. So it would be too difficult, and you'd just I'm going to go do something else, because it's a lot easier to do. Fortunately for me, it's been very simple, so I just jump in. I'm like, just give me the first note. If I've heard the song, I'm probably going to know where to take it. That's one thing. Also, the ability to hear tones and know instantly what you're hearing is like perfect pitch or relative pitch is
Yep.
incredibly important also for a lot of musicians. The other part of it is writing. There's a lot of people that don't do what I just mentioned, and they
Yes.
do a lot of writing.
Yes.
And a lot of times people who don't learn a bunch of songs come at music from an original music perspective a little bit differently because
Yep.
they're not boxed in, and that's part of the reason why I try not to. I'll take breaks from music. I'll take a break, and
That's
I'll put it
that's
away for
awesome.
a while.
Yeah.
I'll take 6 months, so I don't get so locked into a certain thing that I can't get past that, and that's where you
Yeah.
get like a I don't know, come back and it's fresh,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
That's
I hope that
awesome.
makes sense.
Oh
I'm trying
no,
to.
no.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Okay.
Excellent. So you have got a ton of experience in various bands.
Mhm.
Beauty and the Suffering, touring with Doyle. What makes Lords of Acid stand out with you and all this? Just the whole creativity, I guess.
Well, it's a fun show, and like I mentioned before, there's a lot of live performance, flexibility to improvise and do the show and stuff like that. I haven't done any albums. I collaborated with Lords of Acid on the music video for Hell Does Exist, which was filmed in 2022 by my good friend Dustin Ferguson, who I've also worked with in some film stuff.
Yeah.
I hope.
That's awesome. So before we wrap up here with you, my friend, what is next for you besides this tour?
Well, probably more touring. There's a lot of I jump from project to project, and Lords is a great it's a great experience to be a part of, a great team to work with. There's since so what's next? Well, I do some film stuff too. The film stuff was something that happened by accident during the pandemic when everything was shut down. I dove into some film roles, and it just kind of took off. Before the pandemic, I had one film role where I brought my band Beauty and the Suffering into the picture, and then during the pandemic, it kind of took off, and now I have 25 film credits, which was not
yeah, it took off for you.
But it was a nice way to add another avenue of creation and creative, and to be creative with collab with other people.
Yeah.
Visually and stuff like that, and it kind of seemed to work out pretty good. So
that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, it has been an honor and a privilege to chat with you once again. I really appreciate you taking some time out of your Sunday here to come on and entertain our audience and everything else.
It's been great. Thank you for having us on, and we are looking forward to seeing everybody. Praise the Lords 2025 tour. LordsOfAcidOfficial.com for your VIP tickets. So you can find me, DieTrich Thrall, on all the social sites to follow, my experience on the tour as well. It's another perspective.
That's awesome. Well, you are amazing. Thank you for making some time for us, and I really appreciate it. Good luck with the tour, my friend. We will definitely talk to you soon. Have yourself a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day. Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you.
Appreciate it. There he goes. Yep. That is DieTrich Thrall with us today here on our big program. Coast to coast, bona to bona on iHeartRadio. That is an extreme close-up of my Zoom camera. Get a hold of us online over there at JiggyJaguar.com. Our next guest is going to join